Welcome to another episode of Becoming Disciples. My name is Stephen Fontes, and today we have a special guest with us, my astute colleague and dear friend, Miss Donna Pace. Donna, how are you today?
I'm doing great, thank you. How are you doing?
Pretty good, and thank you for taking the time out to join me on this episode of Becoming Disciples. This is actually part 2 of Love and Respect. It's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Well, thank you. I'm honored to be here.
So today we are going to venture off into part 2 of the series. We're going to dive into that, but to start things off, let's tell the listeners a little bit about yourself.
So I'm from the St. Louis area. I was born in the suburbs of St. Louis, grew up there. Then I moved to a small rural town about an hour outside. And that's where I raised my children. I have 3 kids, Zach, Jake, and Emma. And they're all adults now, so.
So did you spend most of your childhood in St. Louis?
Yes.
Right.
Yes, I left St. Louis when I was 23-ish.
How is St. Louis, by the way? I've never been.
I like St. Louis.
Right.
It's a good place. There's a lot there, a lot of good stuff, but it gets really cold.
Does it? Unlike Florida, right?
So I don't want to step on toes with something.
Let's not do that.
Yeah. No, they both have great positives. I mean, obviously, I moved to Florida, so I'm happy with my choice.
Absolutely.
I do miss things about St. Louis. There's a lot of culture. It's it's an old city,
Yes.
older city.
Right.
Not like some old European city, but it does have a lot of good things there that I do miss some of that. And there's good hiking in the area, and
Yeah, you're very outdoorsy.
I do like to get outside.
Yes.
But here I have the river and the ocean and the beach, and I love all of that. The springs are probably one of my favorite things.
Absolutely.
I do wish they were closer.
Donna, are you an only child?
No, I have an older brother and a younger sister, so I'm not middle kid,
Middle child syndrome.
if you want to say that.
Very nice.
I don't live by stereotypes.
Well, you shouldn't. You should not judge a book by its cover.
That's right.
You're good. So what was your relationship like with your siblings? Being the middle child. Being Jan Brady.
I mean, it's great now. I mean, growing up though, it had its good and bad times. I was what was I?
You were Donna.
So my brother and sister were closer than I was. I was more of the defiant.
The black sheep.
Yeah. I would definitely say that. But no, we're close now. We might not talk on a daily basis or even a weekly basis, but I know that if I ever needed something, they've got my back, and the same goes for them. Like,
That's love.
we're tight. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's love.
We're tight like that.
That's love. Very nice, Donna. So who was Donna in her younger years?
That's kind of scary. Donna was an angry person for many years.
Yes.
Yes.
And when did she transition out of being an angry person?
It wasn't until after my second divorce that I really walked through a lot of forgiveness and growth and really let a lot of stuff go.
Right.
That kind of, in doing that, the anger has gone away. And it's really nice, actually, to not be angry
I bet
anymore.
it is. So let's backtrack a bit. Donna in high school, was she still this angry person as well?
Oh, very much. And it led to a lot of bad decisions.
Right.
Letting myself be guided by anger and yeah. Yeah.
At least you own it, Donna.
I will own it. I'm far from perfect.
Right. So transitioning out of high school into the real world, what did that look like for you?
Well, for me, I moved out of my mom's house at 16.
Young. Very young.
Yeah, I am. I was in love. Exactly. So I moved in with the guy that I was seeing at the time.
How was that relationship?
At the time, I thought it was amazing. Not knowing any different, not really having any other relationship before them, not having really any strong friendships even.
So was this your first serious committed relationship?
Yeah, I wound up being my first husband and the father of my children.
Oh wow, it got serious, it got deep.
Mm-hmm.
So when did you guys know it was going to be marriage?
I don't know. I don't even know, honestly. It really wasn't a healthy relationship at all. It was not good. And
So at what age did you guys? When did you have your first child?
it was a month after not even a month after my 18th birthday that my first son was born.
Gotcha. And what's his name again? I'm sorry.
Zachary.
Zach.
Yes,
Okay.
he goes by Zach.
So how was that experience being young, but being a first time mom and dealing with having your first child?
That part was amazing. I will say I absolutely love being a mom. It's the best thing I've ever done.
Right.
They are amazing people in spite of me and all of my...
Or maybe because of you.
Or maybe in spite of me. I tried. I really did try. I tried to make the best decisions for all of us, and I didn't always. And sometimes it was just my naivety. Is that a word?
I believe it is. It is, actually. The pronunciation it could be up to debate, but I believe that's definitely a word, yes.
Part of it is that, and part of it is being angry.
Yes.
And
Donna, why so angry?
I think it all started with the loss of my father.
Right.
I was very young. And because of that, I think other things evolved, not nearly evolved, but there were other things that I encountered and had to go through. And I think that if he had been around, maybe it would have been different.
See the background noise. Where are we right now, Donna?
I believe it's called Riverview Coffee and Tea.
Yes.
Coffee, Books, and Tea.
Yes, yes.
Nice place, by the way.
Yes. So with that said, that was definitely a major tipping point in your life, losing your dad.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Still hurts.
Yeah. Wow. So with that said, back to Zach.
So, yeah, okay, so, I mean, I was very young, but I thought I was old. I thought I knew, as most teenagers do, knew
Right.
everything, and I knew exactly how my life was going to go. I found this wonderful person who was going to love me and take care of me, and we were going to raise a family and be happy ever after, right?
Right.
Not so much. And I wash some dishes back there.
We might as well just get on the payroll and just help them out back there, right?
It might not be a bad idea.
Right.
So I wanted to have a baby.
You were ready?
I thought I was.
Right.
I mean, honestly, I feel like as far as raising, like being there, being a mom to a small child, where it's just basically love and nurture and take care.
Sure.
I feel like I did a pretty good job there.
Right.
I was pretty selfless in that area. My kids came first, and I took care of them. So when they got older and needed more guidance, and I don't even know how to word it. I feel like I didn't know how to do it. I remember my son one time, my other son, he and I used to get into some heated conversations. And I said to him one time, I was apologizing for some of the mistakes I had made. And I said, I was just winging it. He didn't like that. He didn't like that answer.
He didn't care for that response.
He didn't appreciate that. But I did my best. Could I have done better? Yeah. Looking back, I definitely could have done better. I think, after my divorce, I got married very young, and I didn't want to be alone. I still wanted to have someone in my life, and I didn't do a good job of juggling that balance. And then I also started working at the time. When my first marriage, I really didn't work. I was a stay-at-home mom, and I will always give him credit for that. That was the best thing I could have done for my kids, and it was years that I would never give back. I loved being home with my children and volunteering at school and going on all the field trips.
You were the ultimate soccer mom.
Sure. I loved it. But I was growing up with my kids too. So, as they got older and they become more challenging and things become more difficult, and I tried to juggle work and raising them and trying to date and find someone. And it was, that's where I made a lot of, I have a lot of regrets from that time.
Gotcha. Now moving forward, after Zach comes...
Jacob.
Jacob.
Jake.
What's the time span in between?
23 months.
23 months. Okay. So, how was having your second child? Now, did you feel more prepared? And at that stage in your marriage, where were you guys at?
Things weren't great. Things, even before Zach was born, like I remember being pregnant with Zach and thinking, and I don't want this to come off bad, like it's your fault. But I remember like actually rubbing my belly one day and going, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be here. And I don't mean that like, oh kid, this is your fault that I'm stuck here in this relationship. I just meant I'm going to stick it out because of you.
For him. Yes.
Right. I'm going to stick it out because it's important for him.
Yes.
And I didn't know at the time if he was a him or a her, but so I was just talking to baby. But yeah, but I realized then that this was not a good place. But also a big part of me staying in this relationship was my pride.
Your pride.
My family told me this was bad, not to be with him. Tried to break us up.
Did they? You said they tried to break you up?
And they tried to, intervene and because it wasn't a healthy situation.
So I'm sorry. I guess I didn't catch that. Your family, they were against this relationship.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yes, very much so.
Right. Now, was it an abusive relationship? Did it?
There was a very large age gap, and I was very young.
Right.
So that was the biggest problem. No one knew. I didn't talk to anyone about my feelings or what was going on, other than I just would say, but I love him. I love him.
Right.
Whatever that means.
And he knew you loved him, right?
Yeah. He knew I thought I loved him. He knew. And
Sure.
I did. And in my young 16, 15-year-old way, I did,
Absolutely, yeah.
I didn't know what that meant.
You didn't know what love
really was.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
So, yeah, my family was very against it. But I fought tooth and nail and moved out and had, got my way. And then when I realized they were right and I was wrong, my pride kept me there.
Mm.
And then, like I said, my son, I grew up without a dad. I didn't want my kids to have to grow up without their dad.
Sure. I can relate to that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But, inevitably they ended up growing up without their dad.
Now, your youngest child, your daughter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Emma.
What's the time difference between Emma and Jacob?
That would be 26 months.
26 months.
So they're all about 2 years apart.
Okay, so you've got little Emma coming in. How was that having your first daughter?
Oh, it was wonderful.
Yeah.
It was wonderful.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny. When Jake was born, when they did the ultrasound, they thought he was a girl. So that was a surprise.
And that's your second child, right?
That's my second.
It's so funny because when I had my second child, Christian,
Mm-hmm.
his mom and I, we did like the early the blood test where you can kind of detect the sex of the baby, and came out he was a girl.
Wow.
But he really wasn't.
Via blood test. I would have thought that'd be more accurate than an ultrasound.
Yeah, I think the earliest is 8 weeks, and I think we did it right at the 8-week mark. And it showed that he was going to be a girl, but obviously Christian isn't. And
neither is Jake.
Yes, and I've got to say, Donna, I'm very happy that I have both my boys.
Mm-hmm.
I've actually wanted a girl both times. Something about being a daddy's girl always appealed to me. Hopefully, at some point in time in my life, I will get that distinct honor. But for right now, I'm so happy and blessed that I have two amazing boys, and I'm very grateful.
Yeah, and I think God knows what He's doing.
Yes, He does.
Even though I question it sometimes.
He is the author of our lives, Donna.
That's right.
Although we try to rewrite the script time and time
don't
again.
we?
Yes.
We sure do.
Yes. So you've got Emma now.
Yes. Yeah,
Pretty as a button.
She was. Yeah. She still is.
Yeah.
She's a beautiful girl, inside and out. But yeah, so I will say, none of them were prevented, but none of them were planned.
Sure.
So, it was at the time when Emma was born. Actually, we're living in my mom's basement. We had.
And where you got? You're still in St. Louis?
Still in St. Louis County.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So we had a home. We hadn't sold it at that point, but we were renting it out. And we moved into my mom's basement because we had purchased some land. Actually purchased the land back when I was still pregnant with Zach. And we were finally trying to build on it. So we moved in there to save some money. but we were there for, gosh, I think we were there almost 3 years or something right. Yeah, right around 3
in that
years.
ballpark, right?
Yeah, it was a lot longer than anticipated.
Right.
But yeah, so Emma was born there. We were living in the basement with 2 bedrooms, and so all 3 of the kids were in 1 bedroom. It was,
Right.
I mean, it worked. It works, and I'm ever grateful to my mom for letting us do that.
Listen, make it work. That's all
But
I
wow,
can say.
the chaos.
Yeah, no, I mean, and one thing I will say about you, Donna, from knowing you, you're a very resilient person. I've come to learn that about you. So,
Thank you.
yeah,
Yeah, I've I don't know, I'm not one to like toot my own horn, so to speak, but yeah, I've been through some things. I'm sure I know many people have been through way worse.
right.
But
I like the fact that you're able to identify that you're not feeling sorry for yourself, but you're understanding that, yeah, there are people out there that have it way worse than me,
mm-hmm.
and I respect that about you. So, at this stage in your marriage, what's the relationship like between you and your husband?
It's more like a roommates thing, honestly.
Right.
You know,
Right.
He worked nights, so I was up with the kids, taking, Zach had school, Jake had preschool, and I would, Zach was so clingy. So when he was in preschool, I just stayed and helped out because I couldn't leave.
Right.
He freaked out. When he got into kindergarten, he got better, but that first day that was hard. But yeah, so my days were filled with taking care of the kids and groceries and going on little outings with them and just playing in the yard, whatever. And
sound like a great mom to me.
Oh, well, thank you. But just doing that kind of stuff, and my days were pretty much just taking care of the kids and housewifey stuff.
How did you like fulfilling that role of a housewife? I mean, outside of the state of the marriage itself, but just doing the things that a wife would do. Did you gravitate towards that type of lifestyle?
At first, it took me a while to get used to it. My mom really tried to compensate for the loss of our dad when we were growing up. So I moved out of the house at 16, and I don't know if I had ever done a load of laundry in my life. And I was one to just let the dishes pile up until we didn't have any more, and then I would reluctantly wash maybe all of them, maybe just enough to get through the day.
Right.
Yeah. So it wasn't something that came completely natural, but would I appreciate that life now? Yeah, that wouldn't be too bad.
Sure.
I enjoyed taking care of my family.
I mean, honestly, you're tough. I will say that, Don. You're tough, but you're very caring as well. So I've got to ask now, at this stage in life, what is the relationship like with your kids and your husband?
I mean, they was their dad. They didn't know any different. They loved him.
Did they ever see you guys argue or fight or anything like that?
I'm sure they did. I'm
Right.
sure they did. We didn't have a whole lot of arguments. We didn't talk much. He worked nights. He did his thing. He'd be asleep till, the afternoon. He'd be up for a couple hours. And then he'd go to work. And that was the typical day. Now, don't get me wrong, there were times when we would go do things together.
Sure.
But no, and he would play with them. He would do things with them, especially when we got, when we built our house on our property, because we had a little over 5 acres. And
Nice.
he was all about, his big hobby was being outdoors, like landscaping and that kind of stuff. So he was always doing stuff in the yard when he was home. And, the boys especially, Emma too, she's a little tomboy. She'd be out there catching bugs and frogs too. But so they would do that, or we'd all go we call it a hike. It was on our property, but we had like a big creek that ran through the backyard, and we'd go down there and catch tadpoles and
Very nice.
little things like that. We would all hang out and do things like that, and that was, they loved it. It was great. And I enjoyed that, but there were also times that, yeah, it wasn't good. And there was definitely no intimate connection between he and I for a long time. And, that didn't affect the kids, but it affected us.
Right.
And yeah, I'm sure they heard us argue.
So, Donna, at what point did you realize that your marriage wasn't going to last?
Okay, so I knew for a while that it wasn't good. Neither of us was satisfied. Neither of us was happy in the relationship. But there became a point where I just decided I'm done and I wanted out. And I can't tell you exactly what made me to make that decision finally. There were things I was seeing. And I guess, honestly, now that I think back on it, the kids were obviously seeing more than I really realize or even maybe remember. Maybe that's a better word. Because I do remember my son coming to me one time and asking me to divorce his dad.
Wow.
And
what did you say?
I can't even remember what I said. I remember his dad hearing it because it was more than once he said that. And I remember his dad hearing it one time and basically telling us that without him, we were going to end up, on the street or whatever. And honestly, I had no work history. When I first left home, I got a job as a pet groomer, and I did that up until Zach was born. And I hadn't worked since then. So
right.
Now we're several years later and I have nothing.
Right.
I have no job. I have nothing.
So did you feel stuck?
I guess it was something I feared. But what I ended up doing, I made the decision that I had to get out. And see, God works in mysterious ways. Because we had that nice big home on the 5 acres of land, and it was gorgeous. Oh, it was a great place. And it was so great to raise the kids there because, like I said, we had our own park. We had our own, right? And
absolutely.
we loved to be outside and enjoyed all of that stuff. But it was also very secluded and very wooded. And I was afraid. I knew I wanted to get a divorce. I knew I needed to do that. My biggest fear was that he would come back and do harm to myself or, God forbid, the kids and myself. And, that was the biggest fear. So I knew I needed to make some changes. And this is where I say God works in mysterious ways because a few months before, he had lost his job, a job he had had since high school.
Right.
So he was looking for work, and like I said, I didn't work. So we were pretty tapped out. Our savings was gone pretty much, and he was getting little jobs here and there, but it wasn't career stuff. And I said, why don't we just sell the house? So he liked that idea. It would take a lot of stress off. We'd get rid of the house and move somewhere. The idea was to save money. Of course, when we finally ended up buying something, I think it was $50 less a month for something way smaller and just on a little subdivision lot. But it gave me the comfort to know that if something were to happen, there was someone within, earshot.
Absolutely.
So that's why I say I wouldn't have. How would I have said, oh, let's sell the house if everything was hunky dory and our finances weren't in?
Sure.
So we moved into the new home, and then I had been slowly saving up little money here and there, and had what to me was a lot of money, but I don't even think it was $1,000. And I met up with an attorney and got the ball rolling. I remember when I met with the attorney, he gave me paperwork, obviously, and I brought it home, and I didn't know where to keep it, where I was so afraid he would find it.
Right.
Yeah. So I ended up hiding it in the linen closet underneath the kids' bath towels.
That was creative.
It was the one place I could think of. He wouldn't find them. What would you go in there for?
He would not dare enter that.
Well, he had no reason to be there, right? So anyway, and then I got a restraining order, and the day I knew it was going to be served, I gathered up all the kids, and we drove back to the neighborhood where I grew up in St. Louis. Actually, first we went to Home Depot, and I bought all new locks for the doors and some security bolts.
Right.
And then we went and we spent the day at an old neighbor's house, somewhere where I thought he would never know to look.
Right.
And he was served with a restraining order.
So there was a legitimate fear on your part.
Yes, there was. And don't get me wrong. He was very verbally mean. He only ever hit me one time.
Right. Were you shocked
but
when that
I was,
happened?
I think I always felt like he was capable of it.
Right.
But I knew not to push it that far.
Was it in the heat of an argument?
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So one of the things when he had lost his job, I picked up like a cocktail waitress job to kind of help bring some money in.
Yeah.
And I got stupid. I had been in this marriage with this person who was just, like I said, like a roommate, and belittling and mean for years. And I ran into someone who gave me the slightest bit of attention.
Right.
And made me feel special.
Sure.
And so after work one night, we were hanging out, and I didn't come home on time, and so my husband at the time came looking for me and found me with him.
Wow.
And of course he's angry. I would be furious too, right?
Sure.
The ironic thing is I know he was sleeping around all over the place, but I had no proof, and I didn't care because I was, as long as you don't touch me, then we're good.
So you knew he was doing his thing.
Yes.
So you knew he was stepping out of the marriage.
I did. But I really, honestly, Stephen, I didn't care, as far as like it didn't hurt me to know that he was, because our relationship was so done.
Right.
My biggest fear was, okay, that's fine, just don't try, bringing anything home to me.
Sure.
And very selfishly was just keep going to work and help us maintain the household.
I've got to say this, Donna, and this is one thing I always say. As maybe honorable and righteous as it may sound to stay together for the kids' sake, I never thought that was the way to be. I never thought that staying together simply for the kids was the right thing was the right thing to do, because at the end of the day, especially once they get older, you can try to hide it as much as you want to, but as they get older, they'll understand that there's no real love there. Mm-hmm. So that's the only thing about that theory when, couples and, let's stay together for the kids. I disagree with that. I just think that's just, I want my kids to see a healthy, loving relationship where dad is madly in love with mom, or, that's definitely what I envision. And I'm not saying relationships are going to be perfect, marriage is going to be perfect, not at all. Not by any stretch, but the love has to be genuine and real. So, but I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt as you were.
No, you're fine. No, I totally agree. Like, there was that conflict of what kind of example am I setting? I don't want my daughter thinking this is the relationship she should strive for. And I don't want my boys to be like this, you know? So there was that. And then there was I didn't want my kids to grow up without a dad. But at the end of the day, I think at the time we split, Emma was almost 6. So that would make Jake was 8 and Zach was 10. Yeah, yeah. So they were seeing things. They're smart people.
Right.
They always have been really smart.
I wonder where they get it from.
No, I used to always say the same thing. I did. I was like, my goodness, they're at 4 years old. Like, this kid is way smarter than I am.
and I will say this, I feel like I kind of almost know your kids just knowing you, in a sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also from what you've told me, but
they're amazing people. They really are. Really are. They inspire me a lot in my own life as an adult. Like, you guys are just.
well, no, kids can do that. So the finality of that relationship, marriage, you guys did divorce?
Yeah. Oh yeah, we divorced. It took like 3 years or something to finalize the divorce. It was rough. But so yeah, we went our separate ways. He moved out, and eventually, he started coming around, and I didn't have that strong fear anymore, right? So he'd come over and he'd pick up the kids now and then, and tried to do the whole split custody thing. And at first, it was pretty consistent every other weekend, and then he'd fall off for a few weeks and not show up. And I'm not trying to dog him. It sounds like I'm trying to dog him. I'm
No,
not.
it doesn't.
I mean, like I said, I made a lot of mistakes. I made a lot of bad choices myself. But so yeah, we split up and he did his thing. I really wasn't into his business. He would take the kids on the weekends sometimes, and he did take them for an extended, I think maybe several days. Maybe it was for a whole week one summer, and took them to Tennessee. Anyway, rambling.
No, it's okay.
But
Beautiful state, by the way, Tennessee.
it really is.
Yeah,
Smokies are gorgeous. But
so let me ask you
yeah,
something, Donna.
indeed.
How was? No, you're fine. So how did that change the relationship between your kids and their dad? Like, what did that look like after you guys divorced?
So he was very angry, of course, and he had the kids kind of convinced, and I will say it got to the point where it was more my younger son that he had convinced that I didn't love them, I didn't want them, I only wanted the child support, which ironically he wasn't paying at the time. But that's what, and I
Figure.
I wouldn't talk to them about that. I wouldn't badmouth their dad in front of them. I bit my tongue. I bit it off so many times. But he definitely talked very ill about me. I don't even know everything that was said, honestly. But I heard some things from the kids, especially when my son tells me that I only want him for the child support. Where would that have come from, right?
Sure.
So it was very rough. It was very rough. And I know for a while there, they would go and they'd visit him for the weekend and they'd come home, and it would take me all week to get them back into like I don't want to, not even a routine, but just to where they weren't super defiant. And then we'd have like a few days, maybe 4 or 5 days of, okay, this is all good. And then it was time for them to go see him again. And the whole process started over. So
It's a cycle.
Oh my gosh, it was so hard and exhausting.
Did any of them choose sides?
So, to a degree, I mean, like I said, he really singled out. I don't even know what he singled out. If it just was, there's like my middle child, Jake. He definitely seemed to side with his dad more and be very, very angry at me.
Who was Jake more like, you or his dad?
Ooh, Jake is. Jake and I are a lot alike. We're strong-minded.
Stubborn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's one way to put it. I was gonna say to our own fault, but he was a very angry kid too, and I saw myself in him for many years, and I would try to tell him, especially once I finally started walking through my own forgiveness and realizing the difference it made, and realizing that by being angry at someone, it's only hurting me. Harboring all that anger, they don't care. They don't even know. They've moved on. They forgot all about you. And here you are wallowing in this anger and this self-pity. You're the only one that's hurting from it. You and the people in your immediate life. So me and my children are the ones suffering from my stupid anger. So I tried to talk to him about it, and I think he's done a good job of letting go of a lot of it, a lot sooner than I did, because I was well into my 30s by the time I started figuring it out. And, he's 26 now. I almost said 25. He just had a birthday a couple months ago. But he's very driven. It amazed me because even in high school, the kid had like a 5-year plan. And I'm like, I've never been able to come up with a 5-year plan. Right. I hate that. You go on an interview and like, what's your 5-year plan? I don't flipping know. I have no clue. 5 years from now, I hope I'm still breathing,
Fair enough.
But yeah, so as far as who he's more like, he's his own being, but I do see a lot of myself in him,
So I've got to ask you, Donna, and I know you. I've known you for was it a year now?
A year.
About a year
I've
now.
been here a little over a year.
And we talk about faith all the time.
We do.
So how has first of all, when did you first come to know the Lord?
Okay, so my mom has always been, I always have religious. I was brought up Catholic. From first grade through my freshman year, I was in Catholic school. So I learned, about God and about Jesus and as a kid growing up.
Was there a connect with you at that point as well, or were just because
No.
some people say you can know about the Lord in terms of your head, but in terms of your heart,
Right.
it may take some time.
And no, not at all. For me, there was no connection. As a matter of fact, I hated going to church. I used to set the clocks forward or back. There's the clocks back
Wow.
to try to get out, try to miss it. When we got older, I would say, my sister and I would say, we'll ride our bikes to church. We're going to go onto a different, and we just ride around the parking lot, or we do whatever we could to get out of going.
So when did it actually connect with you?
So after Zach was born, I had this draw to go back to church. So I started going back to church with my mom for a while, the Catholic church. And it wasn't long before, and again, like, I'm not trying to step on, this is my personal experience, my opinion, but I started feeling a certain way. I don't know. I didn't agree with everything. And I guess I saw or felt maybe conflict between what I was experiencing and what I was hearing.
Sure.
And I withdrew again and fell away from the church. Then, once all the children were born and we had moved out to the home that we built on the land, which, like I said, was like an hour outside of where I grew up and where my family still was, I started trying, again, I felt that pull.
Sure.
And I started going to the Catholic church there. And I did that for a while, and then, again, fell away from it pretty quickly. Part of the problem was that my husband at the time was not about it and didn't really love that I would go and do that. So that was part of it. But it was also just me not vibing, right?
Right.
Then when the kids were a little older, I think Zach was in 2nd or 3rd grade, he met a little friend whose mom and grandparents went to the Methodist church. And they invited me. And we all went. And we liked, even the kids liked it. Zach liked that there was a youth group, and he would go with his friend to the youth group. The other two were a little young for that, but they would go to service with me and my friend and her parents, and they enjoyed going, right? So we did that for a while, and then I met who would become my second husband. And
Through the church?
no,
Okay.
that would have been nice. But he was Catholic.
Sure.
And he was
There's-
actually a practicing Catholic.
There's a conflict.
Right. But I was really good at just blazing past all the red flags. So dated him for way not even close to long enough.
How long
And
would you say?
How long did we date? Maybe 6 months before he moved in.
Sure. 6. So about half a year.
Yeah, about.
Sure.
And then he moved in. And then we got engaged, and I want to say within a year and a half of meeting, we were married. But again,
wow, that's quick.
yeah, it was quick. And the kicker is, again, I knew I didn't really want to marry him.
So why did you, Donna?
Because I'm a fool.
Let me ask you a question, and let's kind of dive in that a little more. Is it just the fear of being alone, or is it just the desire to have a companion? What if we could pinpoint something there? Why would you say, what drew you to say, okay, what drew you to say I do?
I was hoping, it was the potential I thought I saw.
So you got married off of potential.
And pride, because
Right.
here again, and honestly, there was a bit of, it was almost like a business decision. And that was on both sides, because
Yeah.
he had a place, he had a home he was renting. I had a home that I didn't own outright, but, mortgaged on, whatever. I had my own home. He had his own home. We're both making payments. Neither one of us is super financially well off. So it made sense. Oh, we want to be together. Move in. Then we just cut half the bills out, right? So that was that. And then, so there we are. And we're getting by now, right? And I'm not, before that, when it was just me, I was like, I'll pay the house payment this month. Next month, I'll pay the car payment. The kids always had what they needed.
Sure.
But, my shoes had holes all through the bottoms. I wore my son's hand-me-downs as far as T-shirts and sweatshirts go, you know. And it was a struggle, you know. There was a lot of times I want to get them other things. I just couldn't, you know. So we got by as far as that. But, I mean, at one point, my home actually was up for auction. And it's crazy. And here's another example of God's just amazingness is that the house goes up for auction. And I have no money. Obviously, that's why it's up for auction, right? And so I'm trying to deal with the mortgage company. And it was like I had to come up with some crazy amount of like, I want to say it was a couple grand at least. I've got $0, zero savings. I am working in a glass factory making $12 an hour. And I'm barely getting by. Where the heck am I going to find a couple grand? I still don't know where it came from. I don't know where. I can't tell you how I came about that money. But I got it. I got the money. I was able to hold off the mortgage company, and we kept the house. And
he always finds a way, Donna.
I know he does. It's amazing. It's so many times have I been in that financial situation of I have no freaking idea how I am going to keep the lights on or pay the water bill or anything, the car payment, anything. You know, and it always came through every time, even before I really, quote unquote, gave my life to God. Like he was always there for me.
He's faithful.
He is. Yeah, I wasn't right. Back then. I was. As a matter of fact, I went through a long time in my life. Part of my anger was for so many years. I
directed towards God.
Yeah, to a point where I have said in my past multiple times that the only reason I believe in God is because I want to be angry at him.
Wow.
That's pretty.
Yeah, that's tough.
I'm sorry. That's where my head was.
Right.
No, that's not me anymore. That's not me at all.
Right.
But yeah, I was an angry person. Anyway, so part of the reason why I went through with the marriage was there was a bit of desperation there.
That's another reason why I see people get married due to finances.
It's a bad reason.
Just, something that looks opportune, and just financial security. One thing I will say, and this is two things that women, I think, kind of desire, security and also comfort.
For sure.
And so, being financially secure is it's everything, right? So
it's important.
It's highly important. Yeah. Who really wants to struggle?
Right.
I mean, who desires to struggle
I never want to be back in that situation.
Right. And so, with that said, sometimes we feel inclined to take that route, but again, that's and what you said earlier, it was a business decision.
Partially.
Right. Well, but in your case, but a lot of people, a lot of couples do look at marriage as a business decision. I think that is so wrong. It should be premised off of just that love,
and respect, and how ironic. Yeah, I feel like it should be based off of love and respect and mutual goals and trust and a willingness to work through your problems and not give up on each other. And there's just so many factors that come into what a relationship should be.
Right.
And a business decision is not
it's not
one of them.
So, with this relationship, how did you know this one was not going to be your end all be all?
Well, okay, so first of all, another part of why I thought he was good for us, myself and the kids, was he had a son and his relationship with his son was strong, and I really admired that.
You valued that.
Yeah. And I was hoping that he could be a good stepdad to my kids. Right. I wanted my boys to have a good role model. And Emma too, but I thought this would be a good. Man, was I wrong.
Wow. How was their relationship, your kids and your then husband?
Yeah. It was rough. They tried. So the biggest problem, he was not able to be a dad to someone else's children. They went back and forth, at first things were good, and then, but I kept looking at the potential of if we can just learn, if we can just make this mesh, if we can just, it could be really good, you know? That's what I thought. And it just wasn't. It never got better. It just got worse.
Wow.
I've tried to move on from all that. That's one of the things. There's two people I have a hard time forgiving. It's him and myself. And it's because of the damage. Like, I can forgive the people who have harmed me. And I've forgiven things I never thought I would. And I really have. But those, myself and him, because of the damage and the harm they did to my children, it's so hard to move through that. So that's still something I struggle with. I still have a lot of guilt and regret there. But yeah, just things like that built and built and built, and it got worse. And I could give all kinds of examples and for instances. But basically, I finally realized that this was a detriment to my kids, and I was hurting my kids by staying in this relationship, and I needed to stop this.
Right.
So I finally realized that this was a situation that was never going to get better. And we had a couple arguments leading up to it. It was probably going on for a month, and I finally I told him, I'm done, and I need you to leave, because it was my house, and I need you to leave. And it was ugly. It was ugly. And the weird thing is, like, so as much as the relationship between my kids and him wasn't great, I tried to be like this super submissive, just I won't speak my opinion kind of person. That's not me. I'm sorry. I can't.
That is so not you, Donna.
Even when I was like no self-esteem and in my anger and all that wallowy pity stuff, I still wasn't a super submissive, passive, like unopinionated.
Right.
Like, I won't say, I mean, don't get me wrong, I could put up with a lot of crap and keep my mouth shut and walk on eggshells pretty well. But to completely shut down and have no personality at all, I couldn't handle it. And it's not right. It's not right, right?
Yeah, that's not you at all.
Well, it shouldn't be anybody.
Shouldn't.
So finally I got over there. I was like, no, this is done. You need to get out. And light bulb moment for me was the day moving out, my oldest son, Zach, he looks at me and he goes, I hope, I can't quote because I don't remember exactly what his words were, but it was basically like, I hope you're happy because I hate this. And I was like, oh my God, I'm doing this partially, I mean, for you and Jake and Emma, and it's not just for me. I'm not doing this just for me. Like,
right.
But then, you know, and I, for a moment, because I think Zach was almost 16 at the time, and he was like, for a moment, for a little bit, I was going back and forth like, my God, is he going to tell me he's going to go live with this man? And am I going to have to fight this battle? But he didn't. And actually, at the end of the evening, and everything was done, I remember all of us, like, there was like this weight that was lifted. Yeah. It was, Emma, like, found an old box of family photos of like when they were all little bitty, and she started putting up little pictures on the shelves and stuff, like redecorating the place. Like, it was an instant change in the atmosphere there, and it was good. And I won't say things weren't difficult, but at that time, like, I had a full-time position in the career I am now, as far as not the same position, but starting off in my career. And so financially we were in a better spot. So that made things a little easier too to transition. But yeah, that was pretty much where that ended. And, you know, I talked to him a few times after that. He wanted to try to make it work, he said, and I don't know why I said I was willing to, but we talked on the phone. I think I even met up with him a couple times. And I remember the last time I really talked to him on the phone before it was like, no, this is done. I was at work and he called me and I forget what he called about. And I was asking like how his parents were. And he was saying something. I don't remember what he was asking me, but I went off and like, you know what? You haven't asked me. I guess we had been split up for a month or two at that point. I'm like, you have never once asked me how my kids are. Not one time. Yeah. And this is my biggest problem with you. So we're done. I'm done. And that was it.
Right. Whew. All right. So now, Donna, right now, looks like you've definitely found peace in throughout your
It's
journey.
starting at that point.
Yeah. So Donna now compared to Donna back then, what are some of the things that you see and like about Donna now?
Donna now likes herself.
Yeah.
Donna back then did not like herself
Right.
at all.
Yeah.
And Donna now is nowhere near perfect. Don't get me wrong.
Right. No, she's
But,
nowhere near perfect.
Nowhere near. Well, we can agree on that.
Yes, we can.
But I enjoy my life now.
It's awesome.
I enjoy my life. I'm still learning a lot. I still have, I'm a lot to learn, even what I want out of life. But I'm not afraid to take chances. And I still have a lot to learn and some growing to do. But I have a lot more confidence in myself now. I don't really. Anyway, Donna then didn't, like I said, didn't like myself, didn't really have any confidence or a lot of self-worth. But so right after that separation is when I started with a church that was a Bible teaching church, and it was different than anything I had ever experienced before with church. It was such an eye-opening, like I don't know, I learned so much going there, and I really just started to realize who I was, like as far as a child of God, and I developed my faith and my a relationship with God that
Yes.
I had never had a relationship before, right? I learned how to go to church, and I learned certain things about being a Catholic, and I learned certain things about the Bible and this and that, but I never had that relationship. And so to feel that love and that
Agape. I think that's what that agape love that's just all encompassing, and it's amazing, isn't it?
It's so amazing. It's really, it is. And until you know it, you don't understand it.
Absolutely.
But you have, I don't know, if you can find that and if you can let yourself find that,
Right.
let yourself experience that, be
Let go.
open to it.
Let go and let God.
Exactly.
Yes.
And trust. Oh my gosh. That's just it. Like now I know. So it's not that I was a big worrier before, but I was just talking to a friend of mine the other day. I said, I think sometimes I don't worry enough. Like I
Right.
feel irresponsible in the fact that I have so little worries, but I just know
Got that trust.
that God's going to make it happen. Like he'll come through for me one way or another. I'm not going to, perish on the side of the road.
Sure.
Unless that's what he wants me to do. But I'm just saying, it's not going to, he's always going to make a way.
Absolutely. He will always make a way for sure. So Donna, we talk a lot about faith, even while we're at work, we pick and choose our spots. Do you have any scriptures that kind of stick with you or mean something to you? Anything that you'd like to share with the listeners?
Yeah, I do. I have one that comes to mind a lot. It's encouraging to me. So it's one of those things that I know, like if I do feel discouraged at a time or scared, or because I might not worry much, but I do worry sometimes.
Sure.
So Jeremiah 29:11, and it says, "For I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and not harm you, plans to give you hope and a future."
Absolutely. I love it.
And I dwell on that one pretty frequently.
Right.
It brings me a lot of comfort
Oh, yeah.
and reassurance.
And that's what God is. Obviously he's the ruler of all, but he's that eternal peace that we just, once we have that peace, we honestly, we it's really hard to fear.
It is.
When your heart is filled with faith, it is very difficult to fear.
Yeah.
I was looking at a few verses myself earlier today. I came across this, and I knew we would be having this episode, obviously, geared towards love and respect. This was one that I thought was pretty good as well. It's 1 Corinthians 13, verses 4-5. Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. And, I absolutely,
beautiful verse.
I love it as well. It's just, we've got to understand that, no one's perfect, but if we choose to lead with love, then we choose to see the goodness in others, the light in others. That's one of the biggest things for me with this podcast is just allowing the light of others to shine bright, you know? So
encouraging.
yes, the
each other.
Caitlins, the Toms, the Donnas, the people that I, come in contact with on a day to day, I clearly see the light inside of each and one of you guys. So just allowing that to come to the forefront and allowing others to see it as well. So and Donna, I've got to say, I want to thank you for being so open and transparent and real and authentic. I mean, this is what it's all about.
The only way to be, man.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this is what it's all about. It's how do we all connect on a higher level.
I might have rambled a little more than I needed to.
It's all good. It's all good.
That verse when you were reading it, I was thinking, when we were talking about what a relationship should be.
It's
there it is, right there.
You know what's so funny? That was my next question. That was my next
really?
question. It was how. That was really my next question.
That's crazy.
How would you define love and respect in a relationship?
Yeah, I mean, maybe not. You read it, but God said it right there. Like,
did.
It's a mutual respect and giving. You're giving yourself. It's a choice to give yourself fully to another person and be completely open, completely transparent, and what's the word I'm looking for? Just without inhibition and without fear of like judgment of each other. You have to be open, completely open and giving and loving and accepting of each other's, as weird as people might be or whatever. You gotta not be afraid to be 100% authentic you. And if you can't be 100% authentic you with the person that you're trying to build a relationship with, you're probably with the wrong person.
Ladies and gents, Donna Pace. Thank you, Donna. That was well said. All right, Donna. Well, we're going to go ahead and wrap things up. We're at the end of the episode, Love and Respect. And again, I want to thank you so much for, sharing your time with the listeners and just being an open book, so to speak.
I want to say thanks for inviting me.
You're very welcome. Now, it has become customary of our guests to conclude each episode with a prayer. So I would like to invite you, Donna, to go ahead and share something with us if you don't mind.
Okay, so this isn't, these are not my words, but this is a prayer that I like. So I'll share this with you. Gracious God, through this prayer of thanks, I praise your gracious and beautiful name for all the blessings you've given me and my loved ones, life, happiness, success, provision, and many more. The greatest gift of all is eternal life through Christ Jesus, a gift that we honor with unquestioned faith in him as our Savior. Please continue to protect and provide for our needs each day. May we remain ever faithful to you, our eternal King. Amen.
Amen. That was lovely. That was beautiful. Thank you, Donna. So, Donna, it was a pleasure and an honor, and hopefully down the line we can have you back on the podcast for a little bit more insight.
Yeah, maybe a little less rambling.
a little less rambling. No, you were amazing, Donna. You were great, and again, thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you. I really do. I was nervous, but this was really nice.
And what I've come to see is this is also very therapeutic.
Yeah.
And I think now you can kind of concur with that.
I always enjoy speaking with you.
Yeah. Listen, the feeling's mutual. So, guys, thank you for listening. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time on Becoming Disciples. Take care.